Hey guys, so I'm here to run you through my latest bikepacking journey across Europe from Spain to Norway. So I'll begin with a bit of a background on why I ended up doing this journey. I'd been into bikepacking for quite some time now, and all of my summers for the last 3 or 4 years were spent cycling and hiking to new places. What I loved most about life on the bike was the freedom that came with it. You're completely self-sufficient. You've got your tent, so you're not dependent on anyone for a place to stay. You can choose when to start your day, when to finish, based on how your body feels. If you see something interesting in the distance, you can always take a bit of a detour and go there. And you're also so close to the natural world, through the good times and the bad. So you experience nature in a very holistic way. Making the decision to start the journey wasn't the easiest though, because I had just finished my studies in the Netherlands and I was looking for a PhD. So I was at quite a big crossroad in my life. I'd sent out some applications, but none of them were in the Netherlands. So it essentially meant that life there was over. As hard as it was to make that decision, life on the bike had never disappointed me before. So I was still very excited. Now, coming to the route that I decided to do, I initially thought it would be really cool to do the entire length of Europe from south to north, but with the amount of hiking that I wanted to do, I didn't have enough time to do the entire stretch. So I compressed it a little bit and decided on central Spain to central Norway, which also gave me plenty of time to spend in the mountains as well, which was something I was quite keen on. So regarding the details of the route, so the major cities in central Spain and central Norway were Madrid and Trondheim. So that's how I decided on that. And I had a few other points along the way. Costa Brava was quite high on my list, and that entire Mediterranean coastal stretch. I wanted to spend some time hiking in the Alps. I was going to be meeting my family in Austria, so I had to reach Innsbruck by the 21st of June. And further up north, the Galdhöpiggen, which is the highest peak in Northern Europe, is located in the Jotunheimen National Park over here. And I had kind of set that as the goal for my journey. So once I had the outline of my route ready, I packed up all my things and headed south to Madrid to start my journey. The first part of the journey wasn't the easiest because I was missing a lot of people, and for that reason, I didn't want to have too much time to mull over these things alone in the evenings. So I decided to cycle pretty much from dawn to dusk for the first few days.
6:30 a.m. to 10:08 p.m. That was something.
I met some really nice people during the first few days of the trip. Carmen, Javier, and Maria through couchsurfing. They gave me a place to stay in their garage, which was super comfortable for a couple of days in a little town called Molina. And before I knew it, I'd settled into a really nice routine. I felt comfortable on my bike. The days were often long, but my body was beginning to get used to it. And I really enjoyed wild camping and the flexibility that it gave. So yeah, I was well on my way. Central Spain and the Iberian Mountains just north of it were a real surprise for me because I didn't know too much about that landscape before the trip started, and it was just so incredibly beautiful and isolated. So, very often I'd be the only person on the road for 50, 60 kilometers till I finally saw a car pass. It was really magical. I then headed towards the coast, and I was really looking forward to this stretch, but I was initially quite disappointed because I was on heavily motorized roads all of a sudden. I'd become so accustomed to having the entire landscape almost to myself, so this wasn't the most pleasant surprise. I reached Barcelona shortly after, and I stayed with a friend of mine there. It gave me the chance to regroup, and I'd also crashed my drone a few days earlier, so I could get that fixed as well. I continued further north, and the traffic was beginning to subside, so that was really nice. The coastline was really incredible. That entire stretch after I entered Costa Brava and some of those towns, I felt like I'd stepped into a wardrobe and entered a different world. Heading into France, the coastline was comparatively flat, but the main challenge was the heat. It could go up to 34, 35 degrees Celsius during the day over there.
It's just been a lot of highways today. 165, 170 done already, I think. So it's been a big day.
The landscapes weren't the most spectacular as such, but there was still a lot happening, so it was a very interesting ride.
Gonna lock up my bike to the tree over here, and then just chill outside for a bit, and when it gets dark, go to crash.
As I left the coast, I was already thinking about Turin because I was going to be meeting a really good friend of mine there. Before that, though, I still had a few hundred kilometers to do, and a majority of this would be quite mountainous because the French Alps were in between.
Oh my god. Easing off a bit now. Thank god. It was hail in the beginning and so windy, it was horrible, but later on it then just rained, so a lot more manageable. But I'm glad it's over. Oh my god. It was rough, but I guess typical mountain weather. 20 minutes of torture and then it'll be fine again. After the hail and the rain, and yeah, now the sun is shining, as you can see.
The elevation changed quite significantly almost on a daily basis, and that meant that I was cycling in very diverse landscapes over short periods of time.
Not a bad view to wake up to, huh? So, a nice spot, wanted to stop and check out this really cool rock.
I crossed into Italy at Colla della Scala, and it was just downhill all the way to Turin from there. So I arrived in Turin and met up with my friend, Pippo.
My brother!
And it very, very quickly became home for me. Yeah, we were just doing really simple things, but it was so much fun. We were all over the city, we were doing a lot of sports, and I absolutely fell in love with the street musicians there.
My God. What's up, man?
How you doing?
I almost forgot that I was on a cycling trip, and it was quite hard to leave. People cycled with me for the first couple of hours that morning.
I'm gonna cry, guys! He's leaving me! Incredible singer! Incredible singer!
And from there, I continued east towards Lago di Garda.
But man, it's so freaking hot, and there's absolutely no water on this route for some reason, or at least I haven't found it. So hopefully I find something soon.
This street with shade just feels like heaven, honestly. Anyway, about 50 kilometers left, so not too bad.
My brother. Fuck it. Me.
I had initially planned to stay an extra day by the lake, but I couldn't find a secluded camping spot, so I decided to head on and spend the extra day elsewhere. So I headed north from the lake towards Austria, and after so many days, there were finally dedicated cycling lanes, so that was a great feeling.
40 kilometers from Bolzano, and in the middle of this storm of mountains, but the road just cuts through so nicely in the valley. So it's easy riding, and you feel like you're in the mountains. Perfect life. It's quite hot though, but I take this any day of the year. This is amazing.
I stayed with Matteo and Luis at Bolzano. They were friends of People's. I hadn't met them before, but honestly, it didn't feel like it at all. We had such a great evening together. And this kind of sums up one of the things I love most about traveling.
in the middle of Innsbruck. It's gorgeous, but I have a bit of a problem because I messed up my camping spot. I came too close to the city, and then it just got dark, and don't know what to do now. Just looking for some 24-hour places to stay the night. Not ideal, but also sending some couchsurfing requests last minute. But man, I'm quite an idiot. There were some really nice spots, but then I thought I'd just get a bit closer to the city, and then before I knew it, it's super steep, coming down into Innsbruck. So the last 7-8 kilometers, there was just absolutely nothing where I could put up my tent, and then before you know it, you're in the city center. So it's 2:30 in the morning, and I just really want to sleep.
At 3 in the morning, I got a reply on couchsurfing from Anna, and she and her housemates were super kind and offered me their living room for a couple of days. That was really one of those very, very lucky moments, and I've got to thank the heavens for that, honestly.
Absolutely perfect hiking weather because it's quite sunny, but then I'm in the shade for most of it, and I think the last couple of 100 meters the trees disappear, but man, it feels so good. It feels so light without my bike. It's insane. Just one of those times where I can't believe it's real, man. It's so beautiful. Mountains everywhere.
It was then time for a little break from the cycling because my family was visiting me from India and we were going to be traveling around Austria quite a bit. It was our first time in Europe together, and it was very special to me because I was so glad that I could share a part of this journey with them also.
No, come on. Be mature. No.
I then went back to Innsbruck to pick up my bike and headed west towards Switzerland from there. The next few days were very beautiful with a lot of alpine cycling, but I was constantly battling the heat.
As long as I don't cramp now, in the next 20 minutes, I'm okay.
Besides that, though, it was really the perfect transition after my family left because I was going to be meeting many of my friends in the next section. And I'd planned out quite some hikes, some with them, some of it alone. So I had a lot to look forward to.
Lost my way so many times on the way down. So instead of it just being a smooth downhill, I've had quite a bit of climbing to do. You can hear some really weird sounds in the forest for some reason. No clue what it is. I saw a couple of deer a few minutes back, but this definitely wasn't a deer. But I'm not so far also from a tiny little village, so I don't think it can be anything. But yeah, still a weird feeling because yeah, don't really expect it. To civilization, and it was nothing. I have no clue what it was, at least, but yeah, I'm glad.
After that little scare, I headed out of Switzerland and into the Rhine Valley. I was cycling along this canal that felt endless. It was so incredibly flat, and it felt weird because I'd been cycling in the mountains just a few hours earlier. So it almost felt unnatural. I was just cruising along, and I think I did the longest day of this journey there, 225 kilometers or something like that. But it was probably one of the easiest cycling days. And the next phase of the landscape was so similar to what I had been used to in the Netherlands, so it was a bit of a strange feeling.
On a dike right next to the Rhine. Feels like I'm back in Wageningen.
I then took a bit of a detour to one of the hills close by to meet two very good friends of mine, Davide and Danny. They were driving back to Italy from the Netherlands, and our paths coincided, so we spent one evening together.
Maybe a bit undercooked also.
I then headed back towards the Rhine, and that stretch was filled with rolling hills and vineyards and lakes. It was really beautiful. A couple of days down the line, though, I was starting to feel quite lonely. I think it was largely down to the fact that I'd spent so much time with people who were close to me over the last 3 weeks or so. And I was almost coming to the realization that I wouldn't be seeing many of them for quite some time again. I had had some interviews for a PhD position in Israel, and I was going to be shifting countries soon after the trip ended. And there was a lot going on in general. So I think that was kind of occupying my mind. But yeah, the feeling was quite overwhelming, and I didn't know whether I wanted to continue at all at that point. And in a way, it was quite ironic because it was probably the most densely populated part of my route. And I was crossing so many cities, and I was physically surrounded by people all the time. But inside, I couldn't have felt lonelier. So that continued for a few days, and I'd already entered Denmark and was cycling through the center up north.
It's just been wind and rain. But I think some blue skies coming up.
I then met Manoa. He was on a cycling trip from Strasbourg to the North Cape. Our routes were kind of overlapping for a small stretch.
Got some company for lunch today. Hello. And this guy is riding to North Cape. The legend.
We were doing similar distances on a daily basis, but his was a much lighter setup, so he was much faster than me.
Cool, man. See you, yeah. Ciao, enjoy.
So during the day, I would be doing my own route, and a lot of it would be off-road because I think you see a lot more of the natural landscape that way, and my bike allowed me to do that. So I was doing that for large stretches. But at the end of the day, it almost felt like going home for me. And we'd be cooking together, we'd be chatting for ages, and you just have someone to share this journey with as you're going along, which was so nice. And even the really simple things, like if we found a toilet where we were going to be sleeping, that was the most exciting thing in the world at that moment because it's just not normal. So yeah, these kinds of things to be able to share with someone, and someone like him that too, he really brought back life to my journey.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Excited?
Yeah, very.
Nice.
Little bit free, but it will be okay.
Yeah.
I reached the north of Denmark, and after dropping off Manoa at the ferry, I found a really nice shelter. They're very well built. They have a dry toilet close by as well. If you're traveling on a budget, these are a great option when you want a break from the wild camping because they're completely free. The next morning, I got my stuff ready and headed to Hirtshals, which was where I had my ferry to Kristiansand from. And it was time to get ready for the last chapter of the journey. The first couple of days in Norway were like a dream, honestly. I was also very lucky with the weather. As I was cycling further northwest along the coast, though, it was starting to become a little worse.
Not the most fun time, but man, just got to accept it, I guess.
Initially, it was fluctuating quite a bit, so although it wasn't ideal, there were still moments when the sun just comes out and you can really appreciate the beauty around you because you're still cycling in really gorgeous landscapes.
It's just been tons of wind and tons of rain, but finally the sun is out, and yes, views like this make it worth it.
As the day went on, though, it just kept getting worse and worse.
Welcome to summer in Norway. Winds of 30 kilometers per hour and rain 18 hours a day. Oh my god. It's just so bloody windy, and that does not look fun to climb. And it's super deserted because I'm not on the main roads for quite a few kilometers now. Yeah, I love these parts when the sun is shining, but in the rain and the wind, it's not so much fun.
Suddenly, out of nowhere, I found this little shelter. I hadn't seen anything for hours, so it was such a huge surprise for me.
Like, look at that. It's insane. I can't believe where I'm at. Just hiding from the wind and the rain. And, oh my god.
When I woke up the next morning, it was still quite windy, but in the space of a couple of hours, it became completely calm. From then on, it became the most beautiful cycling day, with bright sunshine throughout, and the landscapes were stunning. I was cycling towards Prekstolen, the pulpit rock.
Go!
It's such a huge touristic hotspot though, so it was very, very crowded, all the way to the top. But you can go a bit further up from the rock itself, and there it becomes a lot quieter. And you can see tens of kilometers into the Lysa Fjord, and it's simply stunning. I then headed towards Haugesund to meet up with a friend of mine from back home in India.
Oh my god!
Oh, okay. Nice.
But it's really good for videos. So.
He was both an engineer and a chef, just one of those guys that can kind of do it all.
You win.
And I got treated to the most delicious food from all corners of the world. It was amazing. We also did a little hike to a lake close by, and it was just really nice to meet up with someone you'd grown up with in another corner of the world. So much had changed since we were last together back in India, but he was doing so well with everything, which was so nice to see. From Haugesund, I started heading inland towards the Alpine region, which is located in central Norway. It started out being the most beautiful cycling day, but the one thing I had learned from my first week in Norway was that I could never really trust the Norwegian weather.
It just won't bloody stop. It is. It is what it is. God. It's getting a bit better, but yeah, I mean the skies, I don't see any blue. Alright, but at least the rain is slowing down.
The good news was that the storms would usually pass in a few hours, and after that, it was quite incredible cycling along the fjords. And it was so hard to fathom that I had been cycling 70, 80 kilometers inland, and you still have these massive incisions from the ocean right next to you. Since the landscape was mountainous around it, you see waterfalls and streams everywhere. And for the next couple of days, I had good weather, and it was just cycling paradise. I reached the ferry point to cross the Lustra Fjorden, and there I met Arna. He had the most interesting backpacking setup I've ever seen, I think. And he's been almost everywhere in the world. He had so many experiences and was a super interesting guy.
It's like, I mean, like, think about it. He has pictures like from China from the 70s, from the 90s, from the.
And it must have been really cool for you because you went there like 40 years later.
Yeah.
After Anna and I parted ways, I headed straight towards Jotunheimen National Park, and I couldn't wait to get there and start hiking up the Gald hopping in. The last major pass that I had to cross was the Sognafjella, and it was really beautiful, and there were so many lakes and glaciers I was cycling right beside. But the real challenge came a few kilometers before I reached the starting point from where I'd be hiking. I knew there was a steep climb, but I didn't know that the roads would be so terrible.
It's killing me, man. 5 more kilometers. In the middle of nowhere, and that is the path ahead. Oh man, it's been a lot of off-road riding today, and luckily I'm past the highest point, so now it's going down, so that helps a lot. It's just been pushing the bike for I don't know how long, and slopes of up to 15%. Oh man, it's been tough, but yeah, almost there. And the end of this road, the view of Northern Europe's highest peak hopefully makes up for it. So yeah, let's go. Not too bad, huh?
That evening was simple and relaxed, and I checked the weather for the next day. And I knew that it was getting worse later on, so I wanted to start out hiking early.
It's honestly magical. Bringing back all the 5,000 kilometers, 4,900 till now, but yeah, makes me think. But yeah, special day. And I'm so grateful for the weather. It's perfect. But right now it's time to get some bread and cheese. There's the beauty, the beauty.
At this point, I could really sense the journey coming to an end, and I wanted to finish it off with quite a bit of hiking. I had heard and read quite a lot about the Rondana and Dobrofjell national parks, and they seemed like a great way to wrap up the journey. There was a mystical feel entering into Rondana. The hills were beautiful rolling hills, very different to Jotunheimen. But in the distance, you could sense that it wasn't looking too good in terms of the weather.
Storm incoming. Look at that. Got to cycle straight into those mountains. Got all prepped. At least I expected it. Oh my god. Oh my god. That was not so much fun. Oh my god. Almost there. Almost there.
It became a lot calmer that evening, and I found an ideal camping spot, which was in the valley from where I could start all the treks that I wanted to do. The mountains were very isolated. The weather wasn't great, so I didn't see anyone for more than 2 days. It's quite hard because on the one hand you're in this beautiful landscape. It's gorgeous. When you see these pictures from the outside, they look like a hiker's paradise, which in many ways they are. But when you're there alone, it can be quite scary. And if you panic, there's no one else to help you out.
Tough hike, man. Super slippery. But yeah, I just want to finish it because I started it more than anything. Oh man. And what a view. Absolutely nothing to see. But it's also magical in a sense. I don't know how to explain it. It's crazy. It's just nothing. Nothing. It's insane. Best luck with the weather in the mountains. Still quite amazing.
On the way down from Restless Maiden, I found a spot where I was getting good mobile network and I decided to check the weather. And I discovered that there was a really, really bad storm forecasted for the next few days. You could tell that it wasn't a normal storm, and I decided to move my tent to a tourist hut. So at least if things got really bad, then I had the option of going inside and renting a room.
Worst storm for 25 years or something like that in Norway coming up. I should wake up to 60 km/h winds if the forecasts are right. It's going to be a test for my tent pitching skills. So yeah, I chose this area because the winds are coming from behind, but it is a bit of a valley. So yeah, I chose protection over the from the wind over the rain. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. 3 more hours and then it gets. Oh, la, la, la. Talk about a storm, man! Insane.
The people who ran the hut were very kind, and they were okay with me using the common areas of the hut during the day. So it was really comfortable, and I could get some work done for a research proposal I needed to send across.
Just gotta make do with what you have, huh? Well, hopefully that works. There's quite a lot of water leaking into the tent, seeping from below, I think.
I had been stuck here for a few days though, and I really wanted to move on and finish the journey. So as soon as the wind slightly subsided, I decided to just go for it.
Time to go. It's crazy. Not the best times. We'll get there. We'll get through this. But it's been one of the toughest downhills, I think. Definitely of this journey. Possibly, yeah. So cold, man. Not my usual spot for the night, but yeah, gas station. Well, yeah, I guess you've got to take what you get in a storm. So at least it's dry. Hoping I'll get 4 or 5 hours of sleep and then an early start tomorrow, which isn't the worst, but it is in the rain. But we'll see. Oh my god. Crazy.
Later on that day, the sun came out, and it was the most amazing feeling in the world.
I just can't explain how nice the sun is. Oh gosh. Good times are back.
Finishing the journey was quite strange because for the last 6 to 7 days, I couldn't wait for this moment because I was stuck in such horrible storms, especially in Rondana. But with the sun coming out for the last 6 hours, I honestly felt like I could go on forever. But yeah, looking back, this journey gave me so much more than I could have imagined when I first started out. I met some of the most wonderful people. I still find it hard to believe that I spent such a short time. Sometimes a couple of days, sometimes even a couple of hours with many of them. I also saw some of the most beautiful landscapes I've ever seen in my life. And they were so diverse. From the central Spanish highlands to the gorgeous Mediterranean coast. The Alps, which never disappoint. The flatlands along the Rhine. And the absolutely magical Norwegian mountains and the crazy weather there. There were so many experiences compressed in such a short amount of time, it's hard to put in words. All of the obstacles that pushed me to the limit, the heat waves, the relentless winds, the hailstorms at sub-zero temperatures where I could barely feel my fingers. They all made the journey so much sweeter in the end when I look back at it. But having said all of this, what I'm most grateful for are those moments where I felt nothing but gratitude, looking out into nature and realizing that it's such a privilege to just be alive and witness the present moment. And for me personally, that's the most beautiful thing I took away from this journey. So I'll leave you with that. Thanks a lot for watching the documentary, and I hope to see you after my next adventure. See ya!